So for right now, we're going to take a look at our box office numbers and see what has been going on since we missed last week. And to be honest, there wasn't a lot going on last week in terms of the box office, was there? Because there wasn't anything really out. Crazy, isn't that? Yeah, it just seems like there's not been a lot of good stuff out recently. I don't know why sort of they had this desert or famine in this particular type of marketplace right now. I don't know what was going on with them, but as we look at the movies for the top 10 this time around, Alien Romulus is still hanging in at number 10. Hey, they made over $100,000. You know, the interesting thing about Alien Romulus is actually most of their box office is actually coming from overseas, which is sort of the reverse of Beetlejuice, as well as Twisters, which are most of the domestic audience. So we see that Beetlejuice held on to that top spot again against Transformers 1. Even though Transformers 1, I think, is probably the better of the two movies, this didn't really hit well with audience. Or maybe it's going to pick up in the next weekend as well, too. So the interesting thing about Transformers 1, and we'll take a look at the screenwriters here in just a couple moments, but it was written, the people who wrote this, it shouldn't be too big of a surprise for us. They've written some pretty solid movies in the past. A lot of Marvel stuff as well, too. So in some sense, sort of the themes that they touch on in Transformers 1, they're not as deep as other movies and stuff, but it shouldn't surprise us that it did fairly well. Well, when I say fairly well, 25 million, compared if you look at the rest of the box office, is actually really pretty good in terms of that. I know Paramount Pictures would have liked a lot bigger of a box office number. It's also probably one of the smaller Transformer movies that has come out in recent memory. I think Bumblebee was the only other one that had a similar low opening week box office. But I think word of mouth about this one's going to pick up, and I think you're going to see that it's going to actually do quite well in the rest of the box office as well, probably more so on digital as well, too. Now, the interesting things with it being from Paramount Pictures and they have their own sort of streaming service, is that something that has caused people to sort of say, well, it's more of a kids movie, maybe we'll wait and just pick it up when it comes out on streaming. So it's interesting with that sort of dynamics that is happening now within sort of the space, with the way that digital and movies and streaming are all coming together and coalescing together. Movie theaters are not always the biggest bang for your buck. They used to be, but a lot of times people are now going to digital. They're buying stuff right on digital. You know, it's probably $16 to $25 for your ticket. Now, if you're in a high-priced area where movie tickets cost like $20, and if you're going to see this with somebody else, it's definitely a savings. For me in my area, I can probably spend about $6 to $10 to get in to see a movie. So for me, buying digital isn't as big of an incentive right now, but maybe in the future. So as we look at the rest of sort of this top 10, Universal Pictures brought out Speak No Evil in its second week. You're seeing some pretty decent drops. You don't see a lot of big drops. So anything under 50% is a pretty decent drop. Is a good drop in that respect, because we're expecting something a little less. Never Let Go from Lionsgate Films, disappointing again at $4.5 million. Now, the interesting thing we'll touch about with Lionsgate here in a couple moments too is this movie and the rest of its sort of lackluster of a summer lineup has really caused it to do something really radical. And I know a lot of people are not going to like the direction they're going to go, but they actually talked to an AI company and are going to try to figure out how to better come up with not necessarily movies, but how to produce movies in a cheaper sort of manner, more cost-efficient manner. And we'll talk about that in a couple articles that I have coming up. Number 5, Deadpool and Wolverine. 9 weeks out, still in the top 5. Holy cow, 3.9 million. And this is going to come out to digital before it's going to come out on Disney Plus. So just so you're aware of that as well, too. Substance, another new film, 3.1. Am I a Racist with Matt Walsh. 2.5. Now, I was going to be curious. I didn't have a chance to look up yet, but I was interested to see how that is doing in terms of something like Bowling for Columbine or like a Michael Moore movie, to see how it's been doing in terms of a documentary and stuff like that. I think probably one of the best, at least grossing documentaries probably was An Inconvenient Truth. I have to look up some numbers and stuff but I'm just sort of guessing at this point. So don't take me as gospel for that. And then Reagan, another sort of more conservative based movie. And then another sort of documentary 1.4 with Young Cook, I'm Still Here. And again, as I talked to you about before, Alien Romulus. So it looks like, again, Beetlejuice is going to probably be in the top 3 for the next week, because if we look at what's coming up next, we're not going to see anything that's really that exciting coming up. Wild Robot. So Wild Robot is going to be coming out. This could, it's sort of like Transformers 1. There's worry that this is, even though it might be a good movie, it might not really have that big an impact on the box office. Are people going to want to go see this? So my other main critique is to when Paramount launched Transformers, why didn't you put it out during the summer? We had some lackluster. You could have done Labor Day. You could have made this. I think it would have been a great Labor Day movie because that would have been something that kids could go see. And why did they put it out in the middle of school year when they're not going to get as good of attendance and stuff like that? So to me, I was wondering, I think Paramount dropped the ball on Transformers 1 because they could have gotten a better box office. So the Wild Robot will be out. Megalopolis. Are you interested in seeing that? This is another reason why Lionsgate might be going with AI, is because this has gotten a lot of really poor reviews. And so we'll have to wait and see what ends up happening with Megalopolis. I'm hopefully going to go see this train wreck of a movie. It could be good. I don't know. I just have a lot of people have been passing on it. And so it's got Francis Ford Coppola as the director and writer. We'll have to wait and see what that is. But Transformers 1 still out in the theater. So especially if you're wanting to watch a family movie, I've heard a lot of good reviews for this. Jeremy Johns gave this, buy this on Blu-ray. Greg Owen gave this a definite look-see as well too. So two people I really trust in the theater sort of space. This is a pretty good movie. So I would definitely, if you're looking for something that's not Beetlejuice and something that's got a pretty good complete story. And again, we'll talk about the screenwriters here in just a couple moments. Never Let Go. Again, another reason why Lionsgate is going to AI to help sort of figure out what kind of content to put out there, because this one was another stinker. Am I Racist? God's Not Dead. The Killer Game. At least these are the ones. Speak No Evil and Beetlejuice are all the ones that are sort of still in my theater around here as well too. So there's really not a lot out there that is going to have a lot of big competition with Beetlejuice or Transformers 1. So I think either of those could do really well. So I think that's something to keep in mind as we look at the next week's box office. I think it's sort of wide open. I mean, Beetlejuice is not unreasonable to see it still retain the number 1 spot, but I wonder with the word of mouth that Transformers 1 is getting, whether they'll go actually come back in and do a lot better within the box office. I wonder if they'll actually get a spike with more people having seen it and saying some good things about that as well too. So let's talk a little bit about who wrote Transformers 1, because I think this is interesting. It's always, since we're a screenwriting channel, I think it's important to take a look at the screenwriters that produce what we're talking about here. The Transformers 1. We can take a look and see that it's Eric Pearson. Now, take a look at some of the movies that Eric Pearson wrote. I think they're going to seem very familiar. As you can always see, you can see Black Widow. He wrote Black Widow. And so the 9 movies that he wrote, Marvel 1 is a video game movie. Just a video. Marvel One Shot, Funny Thing Happened to Me on the Way to Thor's Hammer. Marvel One Shot, Item 46, which was a screenplay. So he did a one shot for Agent Carter. And then he did Agent Carter. He did 8 episodes of that particular series. Then he wrote Thor Ragnarok. Yeah, so he came with Thor. I thought with Thor, that was pretty decent one, 7.9%. Godzilla versus Kong, again, not too bad of a movie as well. Black Widow, that's debatable. I think a lot of people weren't very excited about that. But then Transformers 1, but you can sort of see that the quality of his work, he's in the upper 6s, if not low 7s. So we shouldn't be surprised with how Transformers 1's turned out, was because it has a good screenwriter. And so he's probably the main author, the main writer on this. If we look at the other 2, which is a writing team again, you have a writing team of Andrew Bayer as well as Gabriel Ferrari. So I'll just take a look at Andrew's stuff because they both, basically have the same films underneath them. So The only difference between the two are these last two, with Andrew having written The Haunt, as well as The Crisis of Being Dr. Adam Porter. But you can see they wrote Ant-Man and the Wasp, Die in a Gunfight, which is probably the worst movie in terms of ratings between these different screenwriters. No Exit and Transformers 1. So I'm assuming they probably did a lot of sort of like extra work to just fill in lines or to make scenes a little differently and stuff like that. So, but at the end of the day, you have writers who've written major projects before. You've had writers that actually get a decent score, 7.0. As well as we looked at, as we remember from Pearson, he's got some other higher scores as well too. So again, it shouldn't surprise us, because like I said, I think a lot of people were sort of shocked and surprised when this movie, people are like, well, the story's not too bad. Well, again, I think people are forgetting you need to look at who the writers are. I know Grace Randolph was talking about, well, this is from the director of Toy Story 4. I'm like, who cares? He's not writing the picture. He's not writing the script. Yeah, I mean, if the movie is boring from terms of the visual perspective, sure, I would be harping on the director. But if you want a story that's good and compelling and keeps you in the story, then it's probably a lot more important to take a look at who the writers are. So again, they had some wonderful writers with that. And again, it should not surprise us that Transformers 1, it looks like it's a good movie, and that's why audience are coming back to see it. So, all right. So I'm going to change the topic a little bit. So that's our numbers for this week. So as we think about the end of this particular part or segment that we're on right now, what do you guys think in terms of how do you think the box office is going to be next week? Do you feel like Beetlejuice is going to come on strong still? Or do you think The Wild Robot make it strong? Or is Transformers 1 going to turn around on the box office and actually maybe outperform, instead of going down several percentage points, maybe it actually goes down only 12% and has another big box office? What do you guys think? Leave that in the comment section below.